where the cows outnumber the people and your nearest Starbucks is probably in a different time zone. But here's the thing. While everyone's flocking to the same 5 overhyped cities, these places are so empty. You could scream at the top of your lungs, and only a tumbleweed would answer. The US has a lot of land, but some states, basically unclaimed. And that's not always a bad thing. So today, we're counting down 10 states where solitude reigns supreme. Some are surprisingly cold. One has more antelope than humans. And one, let's just say, it's hiding a very weird secret in the desert. Think you know the best states to ghost the world? Let's find out. And keep your eye on the list, because one of the most surprising picks is a place you've probably flown over 100 times and never even noticed. And trust me, you're not ready for what's next. Choosing wrong could cost you thousands or your sanity. No pressure. Let's break it down. Number 10, Nevada. So you think you know Nevada? Let me guess. Casinos, neon lights, slot machines in the airport bathroom. But step outside of Vegas, and Nevada turns into a completely different animal. Vast desert towns, creepy quiet suburbs, and stretches of nothing that make you question if you're still on Earth or just on low power mode. It's not all flash and dice. This is where people go to disappear, build compounds, or just never want to make small talk again. Let's talk real numbers. Reno, aka the biggest little city in the world, has a median rent of about $1,430 for a one-bedroom, which is great if you're escaping from California, until you realize you're also escaping into wildfire smoke season. Crime? Reno's violent crime rate is 6.7 per 1,000 residents, over 50% higher than the national average. Yikes. Want a job? Good news. Nevada has an unemployment rate under 5% and a booming warehouse and logistics scene. Bad news. A lot of those jobs involve standing in a metal box at 110 degrees Fahrenheit moving other boxes. And yeah, there's always the upside, no state income tax. But you'll make up for it in car repairs after hitting your third pothole of the morning. I moved to Carson City to get peace and quiet. Now my neighbor owns 6 roosters and a jet ski. Nevada outside Vegas is what happens when you mix frontier freedom with HOA pettiness. 1 minute, you're staring at beautiful red rock canyons. The next, you're yelling at a tourist doing 40 in a 70 on a 2-lane highway while your latte melts in the cup holder. Look, I love a dry climate, but Nevada takes dry to biblical levels. The humidity is so low, you can age into a raisin between Costco and your driveway. And don't even get me started on the dust. Your car gets dirty faster than a toddler at a chili cook-off. Picture it, you step outside your quirky little house in Ely or Pahrump. Sun's blasting. You hear nothing but wind, one distant ATV, and a coyote that may or may not be judging your flip-flops. Peaceful? Kinda. Creepy? Absolutely. And if you think Nevada's ghost towns are intense, wait till you meet the place where people actually brag about never leaving their zip code. Number 9, Alaska. Alaska, the land of moose, mountains, and main characters who live in log cabins and name their dogs after whiskey brands. On paper, it's a majestic paradise. Glacier views, northern lights, and a population density so low you might go weeks without seeing another human unless you count bears. But here's the thing. While Alaska looks like the background of a motivational poster, living here is a whole different ballgame. Let's talk real numbers. Median rent in Anchorage. $1,400 for a one-bedroom. Not insane, but not cheap for a place where your neighbors might be caribou. Cost of living is 24% higher than the national average. That's mostly because, yeah, shipping anything here is a logistical nightmare. 1 avocados. Hope you like them frozen, and $4 each. Crime? Anchorage has a violent crime rate of 11.4 per 1,000. That's twice the national average. Even the moose are like, lock your doors. Good news, no state income tax. Bad news, seasonal depression is real when it's dark for 20 hours a day. On the plus side, Alaskans get paid to live there. That's the permanent fund dividend. Last year, just over $1,300 per person. But let's be honest, that'll cover like 1 winter coat and a flashlight. You get paid to live here, which sounds great until you spend it all on vitamin D and bear spray. Living in Alaska isn't just rugged individualism, it's a full-on survival sport. You don't go to the store, you plan for it. Groceries don't cost money, they cost strategy. Oh, and good luck finding a plumber in January. They're all ice fishing or stuck in a snowdrift. Here's the thing, Alaska weather is not playing around. You don't just experience winter, it swallows you whole. And the snow plows? They show up eventually maybe, or you just learn to sled to work. Also, why are mosquitoes the size of helicopters in the summer? How did we all just decide to accept that? Now imagine this. You wake up in a cabin surrounded by snowy pines. The silence is beautiful. You sip coffee on the porch, then a moose walks into your yard and refuses to leave for 3 hours. And your dog? He's hiding behind the couch. Again, living in Alaska is like dating someone gorgeous but chaotic. Beautiful views, but sometimes you wonder if you're gonna make it through the night. Actual Reddit user who probably owns snowshoes and a flamethrower. Would you live somewhere where the sun barely rises half the year, but you might see an eagle steal someone's pizza? Drop a yes or heck no in the comments. Number 8, Kansas. Welcome to Kansas, where the land is flat, the sky goes on forever, and you're never more than 50 feet from a field of corn or a Sonic drive-thru. Most people think of Kansas as that place Dorothy couldn't wait to leave. Harsh, but kind of fair. To be clear, not everything is beige here. Kansas has charm. People are friendly, traffic is non-existent, and your dollar goes a long way. But like that suspiciously quiet coworker, the one who eats boiled chicken every day, Kansas has a few things it's hiding. Let's hit the stats. Cost of living is 12% below the national average. Translation: your rent isn't eating your soul. Median rent in Wichita: around $925 for a one-bedroom. Job market? Meh. Unemployment's manageable at 3.1%, but most openings are in healthcare, education, or whatever Amazon's building next. Crime? Wichita's violent crime rate is 13.1 per 1,000 people, more than 3 times the national average. And the weather? Let's just say if you enjoy sirens, wind, and watching the sky do things it shouldn't, you'll feel right at home. Kansas, where the houses are cheap, the storms are free, and your trash might end up in Missouri. Sure, you'll save money in Kansas, but you'll spend the rest of your time chasing your patio furniture across the street, dodging hail the size of golf balls, and wondering how every driver manages to go 15 under and forget to signal. Let's talk about the wind. It's not a breeze, it's an event. In Kansas, your hair doesn't blow in the wind. It leaves your head. Umbrellas? Useless. Trampolines? Gone. And somehow, it's always blowing directly into your face, even when you turn around. It's like nature's way of saying, move. Now picture this. You step outside into a golden prairie sunrise. The air smells like wheat and dust. You're sipping coffee on your porch, when suddenly, your neighbor's trampoline sails over your fence like it's auditioning for the Wizard of Oz 2, The Reckoning. Kansas is great if you love wind, wheat, and wondering if that cloud is angry or just dramatic. Actual Kansas Redditor, who sounds very done. Fun fact, the official state reptile of Kansas is the ornate box turtle, which feels about right. Slow, quiet, and probably hiding from a dust devil. Remember that budget dream I mentioned earlier? Just don't forget to factor in wind insurance and emotional damage from the 4th tornado drill this month. Could you survive in a place where the biggest local celebrity is a cow that wandered into a bank once? Yes or no, go off in the comments. And if you think Kansas was a weird mix of chill and chaos, wait till you meet the next state, where residents proudly argue over who has the weirdest laws. Number 7, Wyoming. Welcome to Wyoming, where the sky is huge, the people are few, and the Wi-Fi might still be dial-up. Seriously, this is America's least populated state. Not lowest in area, lowest in people. Cows? Plentiful. Human interaction? Optional. The lifestyle here is part rugged cowboy fantasy, part National Geographic documentary. You've got Yellowstone mountain ranges and the kind of views that make your iPhone storage cry. But once you stop swooning over the scenery, you'll start noticing the trade-offs. Let's check the receipts. Cost of living is 8% lower than the national average. Gas is cheap. Rent is cheaper. Median rent in Casper? $955 for a one-bedroom. You could rent a place and buy a snowmobile for less than a Boston studio. Unemployment sits around 3.2%, and there's decent demand in energy, tourism, and ranching if you know how to wrestle a pipeline or wrangle elk. Crime? Casper's violent crime rate is 4.9 per 1,000. Not insane, but for a state with more antelope than people, you'd expect less drama. And Wyoming doesn't just skip state income tax, it skips most taxes. It's basically the financial version of don't ask, don't charge. Wyoming, come for the taxes, stay because there's no one around to remind you why you left. Sure, Wyoming offers freedom, but that freedom comes with a side of where's the nearest target? Oh, 4 hours away. And the winters? Brutal. The wind doesn't just blow, it punishes. You don't check the forecast, you check if your car still exists under the snowdrift. Okay, quick rant. In Wyoming, the wind doesn't stop. Ever. It's not a breeze. It's like Mother Nature's trying to exfoliate your face with frozen sand. I once saw a guy lose his hat, his lunch, and his will to live in one gust. Local advice? Just duct tape your coat shut and accept the chaos. Now picture it. You're sitting on your porch, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise over a mountain ridge. It's silent except for a hawk circling above and maybe a truck rumbling 5 miles away. You breathe in the crisp air. No smog, no traffic, just peace, and maybe a reminder that the closest pizza delivery is 3 counties over. Living in Wyoming is like playing survival mode on easy until the weather randomly switches it to hard. Probably a guy named Cody from Cody. Wyoming has towns where people leave their doors unlocked. Meanwhile, 900 miles south, Albuquerque locks their mailboxes. And if you think Wyoming is wild, the next place somehow made weird a competitive sport. Number 6, Montana. Montana, land of cowboys, cabins, and influencers pretending they live off-grid while uploading drone shots of bison to Instagram from a 5G hotspot. It's got a rep for rugged beauty, self-sufficiency, and that sweet, sweet Yellowstone aesthetic. It's also where people go to escape society until they realize there's no Trader Joe's and a local coffee shop closes at 2 p.m. Let's talk Montana's real story beyond the mountain postcards. Cost of living? Surprisingly high. Bozeman and Missoula are now pricier than some parts of California. Median rent in Bozeman? $1,675 for a one-bedroom. You're basically paying Aspen prices for a place that still uses the term outhouse, unironically. Crime rate in Billings? 9.1 per 1,000 residents. That's double the national average. Job market? Decent if you're into healthcare, construction, or serving lattes to tourists wearing $300 flannel. And sure, no sales tax. But that doesn't help much when your avocado costs $2.50 and was shipped in from 8 states away. Montana's the only place where you can pay California rent, live in a log cabin, and still have to shovel elk poop off your driveway. Living here looks peaceful. And yeah, it can be. But between inflated prices, unpredictable weather, and population booms from out-of-state migration, the Montana dream is starting to feel more like a high-altitude reality check. Let me just say this, Montana drivers in the winter are either rally car pros or absolute chaos goblins. There's no in-between. You've got pickup trucks doing donuts at intersections while a Subaru with Oregon plates crawls along at 12 miles per hour with the hazards on. And don't even get me started on trying to order an iced latte in a town where coffee still means black or with cream. Picture this. You wake up to the sound of wind rustling through pines. The mountains are frosted with snow, your flannel is on point, and steam rises from your coffee cup as the sun hits the peaks. You step outside and immediately slip on a patch of ice while a deer watches, unimpressed. Montana used to be quiet. Now the locals sell their land to Californians and move deeper into the woods like it's a reverse witness protection program. From a Reddit thread that somehow turned into a debate about bear spray. Alright, let's take a quick breather before we dive back into the next ghost town, disguised as a state. Here's something weird. In Wyoming, there's a town called Buford with a population of 1. Yeah, one guy. He was the mayor, the shopkeeper, and probably the entire HOA. Imagine losing an election to yourself. And get this, in Montana, a woman once hit a moose on her snowmobile and then got charged by a second moose while trying to call 911. This is real life, folks. Nature documentaries wish they had that kind of drama. Also, shout out to the ride or dies who remember me ranting about Wyoming wind earlier. You know who you are, still duct taping your coat shut and wondering where your mailbox went. Quick stat break, there are more cows than people in 9 states. In other words, your Tinder matches may moo. Just saying. But don't get too cozy because the next state? Let's just say, if tumbleweeds had zip codes, this place would be their capital. Stick around. It only gets emptier and weirder. Number 5, North Dakota. Ah yes, North Dakota. The land where the sky never ends. Your neighbor might be 12 miles away, and most exciting thing in town is the new grain silo. It's got that peaceful prairie branding locked down. People imagine quiet streets, low taxes, and the occasional bison sighting. But here's the real kicker. It's one of the least populated states in the US, and still somehow feels too empty. Like, you can scream into the void and it might echo back from Canada, empty. Let's hit you with the actual stats. Median rent, about $955. Not bad, until you realize it's for a one-bed apartment in a town with more tractors than Tinder matches. Crime rate, surprisingly decent. Fargo reports 2.6 violent crimes per 1,000 residents, lower than most cities. Unemployment rate, as of late 2024, just 2.1%. That's great if you're into oil, agriculture, or being the new guy in a town of 14 people. And yes, cost of living is 7% below the national average, which means you can stretch a dollar, assuming you can find somewhere to spend it. North Dakota is one of the few places where you can own a house, a truck, and 80 acres of land, but still have to drive 45 minutes to get a sandwich. Living here isn't bad per se, but it's not exactly buzzing. The weather alone is enough to break your spirit. Winters can hit minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's not wind chill, that's just Tuesday. Couple that with long drives for basic needs, and yeah, rural charm starts to wear off fast. I left North Dakota because the wind hurt my face. No place should exist where air feels like a slap. You ever try to pump gas in February and mine it? Your eyelashes freeze together. I saw a guy pour coffee into his cup, and it turned into iced coffee before it hit the bottom. Also, for some reason, every small town diner still closes at 2:30 p.m. Because apparently nobody eats after lunch? You want dinner? Hope you like gas station jerky. Picture it, you're driving down an open road. It's so flat you can see weather happening in a different county. A hawk flies overhead. A tumbleweed crosses your path, like it has somewhere to be. It's quiet. Too quiet. Then you remember, yep, you haven't seen another human in 3 hours. Fun fact, North Dakota has one of the lowest crime rates in the country. Meanwhile, you're more likely to get mugged on your coffee run in parts of New Mexico than during a midnight stroll in Fargo. Be honest, could you live somewhere that has more cows than people? Drop a cow or cross mark in the comments. And if you thought North Dakota was a little too chill, the next state takes nobody around to medically concerning levels. Number 4, Nebraska. Welcome to Nebraska, the land of endless corn, polite drivers, and more small-town parades than actual towns. It's got a rep for being safe, steady, and shockingly quiet. People imagine classic Americana, front porches, college football, and someone named Dale who waves at everyone. But once you get past the shucks vibe, things get a little more complicated. Let's unpack the data. Lincoln has a violent crime rate of 3.4 per 1,000 people. Not Chicago levels, but for a town surrounded by soybeans? That's suspicious. Median rent statewide hovers around $995 per month, which sounds affordable until you realize wages aren't exactly booming either. Cost of living is about 10% lower than the national average. Nice, but job growth? Meh. Outside of healthcare and AG, it's pretty stagnant. And despite the reputation for safety, Omaha's property crime rate? It's a juicy 28 per 1,000 residents. That's not corn theft, folks. That's your bike disappearing in broad daylight. Nebraska's like that friend who's nice at parties but turns out to be surprisingly chaotic once you've moved in with them. Here's the deal. Yes, it's affordable. Yes, the people are friendly. But it can also feel crushingly slow. The kind of place where new Casey's gas station is headline news. And don't get me started on the weather. 40 degrees in the morning, 93 by lunch, and a tornado warning with dinner. Have you ever been in Nebraska during storm season? 1 minute you're mowing your lawn, the next you're clutching your dog and watching a funnel cloud do laps around the Dollar General. And somehow nobody panics. Just another Tuesday, they say, while grilling in the driveway. I've seen Twister. That wasn't a documentary, folks. Picture yourself on a summer night. The sky's glowing orange over fields that stretch forever. Crickets chirp, the air smells like fresh-cut hay, and somewhere in the distance, a tractor hums. It's peaceful until a hailstone the size of a baseball smashes your windshield. I've lived in Nebraska my whole life. We have 2 seasons, winter and road construction, and they overlap. You could live here. Morning coffee on the porch. A quiet town where people still smile at strangers. The pace is slow, the air is clean, and your dollar goes far. But just know, you're swapping nightlife for tractor lights, and your Friday excitement might be a high school marching band. And if you thought Nebraska was a weird mix of chill and chaos, the next state on our list took middle of nowhere and made a lifestyle choice. Number 3, Idaho. Ah yes, Idaho. Land of spuds, solitude, and suspiciously happy people in flannel. If you judged it by Instagram, you'd think it was 100% waterfalls, fly fishing, and people hugging trees. Boise's been hyped as the next great American city, like Austin, but with more elk. But is Idaho really the quiet paradise it pretends to be? Spoiler alert, there's more bubbling under the surface than just hot springs. Let's break it down. Idaho's violent crime rate is 2.3 per 1,000, better than the national average. Not bad. But housing prices? Up 67% in the last 5 years. Median home value is now over $450,000 in Boise. That's not quaint mountain town energy. That's who let Californians in. Rent's not much better. Average rent in Boise? $1,400 plus, and that's for an apartment with a view of your neighbor's Subaru. Meanwhile, job growth has slowed, and most new arrivals aren't working land, they're remote workers pricing out locals. Bonus stat, Idaho ranks number 3 in the US for fastest growing states, which is cool, until you realize it means more traffic, more chain stores, and fewer moose sightings. Idaho used to be a hidden gem. Now it's like someone gave Coachella kids hiking boots and pointed them north. Sure, it's beautiful. There's a reason postcards from Idaho don't include rent receipts. But when the population explodes and wages don't, you've got a slow-moving crisis wrapped in pine needles. Locals are torn between loving the growth and wondering why their hometown now has a Lululemon and a traffic problem. Let's talk about Boise traffic. It's not LA bad yet, But there's something personally insulting about sitting bumper to bumper behind a lifted pickup with a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, only to watch them do 10 under the speed limit for 6 straight miles. If you're gonna block the road, at least be interesting. Picture it. You wake up in a cozy log cabin, brew coffee with mountain air in your lungs, step outside, and trip over a startup bro in Tevas doing yoga on your deck because your Airbnb overlapped. Welcome to Idaho, now with more kombucha. Remember when we thought Nebraska was slow? Idaho saw that and said, hold my organic cider. Number 2, New Mexico. New Mexico, the state that sounds like it should come with a permanent sunset filter. You've got Santa Fe art scenes, aliens in Roswell, and desert roads straight out of a Tarantino film. It's got that mystical desert mystique, like Arizona's cooler, weirder cousin that meditates under full moons and sells crystals on Etsy. But behind the Adobe-style charm, things get a little rough around the tumbleweed edges. Let's hit some numbers. Albuquerque has one of the highest crime rates in the U.S. Violent crime sits at 13.9 per 1,000, more than triple the national average. Statewide poverty rate, 18.4%, one of the worst in the country. Average rent in Albuquerque? Around $1,200. Not absurd, but considering the job market, it stings. Unemployment? Above 5%, consistently higher than the national average. And yes, the broadband internet access is among the lowest in the country. So if you're planning to work remotely, maybe bring a carrier pigeon. New Mexico is where you can go off the grid, even when you didn't mean to. You can live cheaply, but you'll pay for it with weird trade-offs, spotty infrastructure, crime rates that keep Ring doorbells in business, and long stretches of "where's everyone" vibes. Add in intense heat and sudden hailstorms, and it's basically nature's version of gaslighting. Okay, I love a dry climate, but can we talk about the dust? In New Mexico, it's not just weather, it's a lifestyle. You clean your car, and 10 minutes later, it looks like it drove through a Mad Max sequel. And the wind, it doesn't blow, it slaps. Like, I just got sandblasted in the face while walking to get coffee, kind of slap. Imagine stepping outside your stucco home, the sun painting the sky red-orange. A coyote howls in the distance. You smile until the Wi-Fi drops mid-remote meeting, a tumbleweed rolls through your backyard, and your neighbor starts firing bottle rockets. In February. Living here is like camping, but all the time, and you still pay taxes. Remember how Idaho gave you kombucha vibes? New Mexico gives you kombucha with a side of mild survivalism. Let me just drop this real stat. New Mexico once legalized duels with swords until 2009. So yes, someone looked at the crime rate and thought, you know what this needs? Fencing. And if you think New Mexico is intense, the next place makes cactus wrestling look like a chill weekend activity. Number 1, South Dakota. South Dakota, home of Mount Rushmore, endless prairie, and exactly 3 people who admit to living in Pierre. It's the kind of state that feels like it was designed for introverts, survivalists, and anyone who's ever said, I just want some peace and quiet, and maybe a rattlesnake. You think it's all boring cornfields and presidents carved into granite? Well, you're not wrong. But that's not the whole story. Let's talk rent. The average in Sioux Falls hovers around $1,100 per month. Manageable, unless you're allergic to snow and isolation. Cost of living is 11% below the national average, which is great if you don't mind driving 45 minutes to the nearest Target. Unemployment rate, one of the lowest in the country, under 2%. Yes, someone has to keep the state's 3 Dairy Queens running. But here's the kicker. Violent crime rate in Rapid City is double the national average. So, don't leave your snowmobile running. Oh, and zero income tax. South Dakota doesn't want your money, just your silence. South Dakota is the kind of place where your neighbor might be a deer, your co-worker might be a scarecrow, and your therapist is probably the wind. Sure, it's affordable and peaceful until winter rolls in like it's auditioning for The Revenant 2. If you live here, get ready for a fun 6-month season that includes ice fog, black ice storms, and the unique thrill of not being able to feel your face until May. Hope you like frostbite as a personality trait. Okay, I have to say it, South Dakota gas station coffee is an actual war crime. It's somehow both boiling lava and weak as tea. Also, why is there always at least one random snowplow idling in a Walmart parking lot in July? Who are they waiting for? Winter to sneak attack. Picture this. You step outside into crisp, pine-scented air. Snow crunches underfoot. The sky is way too blue, and it's so quiet you can hear your own thoughts, which is terrifying. You wave to your one neighbor across the field, who's actually just a mailbox with a cowboy hat. Living in South Dakota is like living inside a snow globe. Peaceful, until someone picks it up and shakes the hell out of it every December. Imagine waking up to sunlit hills, your morning coffee steaming as you watch wild turkeys jog across your yard like they're late for a meeting. It's calm, clean, and strangely cinematic, until your pipes freeze and the driveway disappears under 14 inches of snow. Still, if you can handle the cold, South Dakota gives you space to breathe. Remember New Mexico's chaos and New Hampshire's moose problems? South Dakota is where you retreat after surviving those. Alright, if your state made the list, congrats. You now live somewhere quieter than a library at midnight. And if we skip your hometown, drop it in the comments and make your case. Is it peaceful or just straight up abandoned? While you're at it, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, it's like if this video had a chaotic evil twin.